Hey, Steve Bignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1974 Mercedes Benz 240D. D for diesel. We'll get into that. Now in 1974, when this car was built, I believe this is a June of 74 build, says the tag, the OPEC oil crisis was in full swing. In October of 73, right through 74, fuel went crazy. The price of a gallon of gas went from 36 cents to 53 cents. That's a bunch of money back then. By contrast, diesel was still 38 cents a gallon. So a lot of people says, you know what, it makes sense to buy diesel. And that was the period of time when Mercedes diesel cars really came into their own here in the United States. Now this body style here was built between 1968 and 1976. A fellow named Paul Brack, B-R-A-C-Q, a Frenchman who worked for Mercedes Benz as the head of their design from like 1959 through 67, is responsible for the lines on this car, which I dare say are timeless. They're very crisp, they're understated. Even though this is a 1974, it could be from the 80s or even 90s. It's that crisp. And Paul Brack later went to BMW and did their 3 Series BMWs, the 5 Series cars, and later in the late 70s, Peugeot. So they have a similar tasteful theme to them. And the lines of this are just really beautiful. It is a 4-door sedan, full door frames here, front and back. And the thing I like, the little details, the door cut line right here, we can see on a normal car, it'd be just a straight line. Well, not here. A little, sort of a little arrowhead kind of a vibe. Kind of cool, you know, Paul Brack, the details that he put into this thing. But getting back to the function of this thing, on the trunk we'll see 240D. Now 1974, right here, was the first year for the 240, replacing the 220, which is a 2.2, so they went to 2.4 liters with the D for diesel, and so this would have been a U-boat powered diesel Mercedes, and again, very good on gas. Now in the trunk of this we can see some hints as to what it was. Here is a ZF German-built automatic transmission, and this is a 3-speed. This would have been a stick was available too, but this was an air-conditioned car. Here's the torque converter right here. And something kind of cool, Mercedes Benz, starting around 1974, had fluted lenses on the back. And these were basically to look good, but also if snow fell on a conventional lens, it might obscure a lot of it. But here, there's so many fluted surfaces or faceted surfaces, whatever you want to call that, the snow is not going to obscure that. So it was a great styling touch, but also very functional in wet and snowy climates. Now this is a Mercedes Benz brochure right here on the 220 diesel, which of course was a pre-74, same basic car, but here's Mercedes flaunting its diesel history going back to the 1930s, even before. Marvelous Maverick, the Mercedes-Benz 220 diesel. No, it's not a Ford Maverick, although similar time frame, but inside here, it says here, 220 diesel, so defiantly unconventional, I get it, the Maverick, that it can probably cut your fuel bills in half, likely to be serving you faithfully when most of today's sleek new dream boats have been chopped up for scrap. Don't talk so fast, Mercedes, look at this one. But anyway, this marvelous Maverick, no, not the Ford Maverick, is built for people who want an economy car but who decline to venture onto the highways in a featherweight, cramped machine. Cuts fuel bills in half. The diesel works its incredible fuel economy in 2 ways. First, of course, it uses lowly diesel fuel, which is cheaper, sold at the thousands of service stations across the country where diesel trucks fill up. The price of this fuel varies from state to state. In almost all states, it's lower than regular gas, indeed, 38 cents versus 56 in 1974. And in some states, it costs only half as much. Second, the diesel sips its fuel. The diesel easily delivers over 25 miles to the gallon. That's true. But again, here's the 220 series, same basic thing we're looking at here just a couple of years earlier. And again, Mercedes-Benz, you know, touting the quality of their build. Now, these were not cheap cars. We'll get to that in a second as well. But as we make our way toward the front, we'll see here the unusual thing about Mercedes is the fact that they used color-matched hubcaps or wheel covers. Notice right here the white, which matches the body. And if you had a burgundy or a bronze or a green or a blue Mercedes, the hubcaps match the body. The only bummer is, I remember as a kid, in the winter time, if you got stuck in snow and the tires were spinning against a bank of snow, the paint would scuff off of the hubcap. It would look a little unsightly. With that said, it was something that gave Mercedes its own basic look. Kind of cool. Now, inside, on this one here is Motor Trend. This is the July 1974 edition. I was 10 years old when this came out. We know that Motor Trend never makes mistakes, with maybe one exception. Canceled? What do you mean we're canceled? But it's funny, on the cover of this, There's the Bricklin, kind of a cool piece right there. Here's the Mercedes 240 and the Mercury Monarch Ford Granada. What's comparison is this? Now inside this magazine, there's no comparison. The Mercedes is not compared to the Granada, but at this point in time, Ford was touting its Granada as a Mercedes fighter, if you can imagine that. It's absurd, but back in the day, who knew? Now, the point of this, though, is the Mercedes ad right there. It says, after 3 years, Mercedes-Benz has a better resale value than any luxury car made in America. Anyone. It says officially domestic cars, even the finest domestic luxury cars, Cadillac, Lincoln, we're talking to you, depreciate at a rate of about 2% per month. And Mercedes-Benz depreciates at a much slower rate. Even after 5 years, any model Mercedes-Benz still retains over 50% of its initial price. Lasting value, a good reason to make your next car a Mercedes-Benz. And again, the pricing from $8,140 to $19,450. But here they are showing that Mercedes-Benz is nearly 80-something percent after 3 years. Interesting to see. Now that's of course from Mercedes-Benz, not sure how they're weighting those numbers, but with that said, this is one of the cheaper Mercedes on the line, the 240 being the smaller one, the full-size 450s, the 560s, all those cool, the Grocers, the Pullmans, way up there. This is the basic car. In fact, in Europe, these are very popular as taxi cabs. Now, if you look under the hood of this one, we should see, okay, unfortunately, it has been scavenged, but the 2.4 liter diesel that would have been in here would have made 62 horsepower and 97 foot-pounds of what? So 0 to 100 and never. These actually probably were limited to about 75 miles per hour. And again, a mere 62 horsepower in this car. No turbos at all in this diesel area here. Now, this same engine bay right here could have had an inline 4 gas motor, inline 4 diesel, an inline 5-cylinder diesel, and a straight 6, depending really on what year and what series it is. And one thing we see on this too is the American style headlights with the sealed beam circular headlights. In Europe, these things were sold with halogen bulbs behind a big glass face. So these were built for export to the United States. And again, the U.S. was a major, very important market for Mercedes-Benz. And this one here is kind of cool. Department of Defense, 1993. So somebody working for Uncle Sam had this car. And the price on this thing when it was new was $8,750, which was $1,200 more than a base Cadillac Calais 4-door sedan. So not an inexpensive car. In fact, a Corvette was $2,700 less than this Mercedes. So this is the kind of car that was bought by somebody who was thoughtful, was frugal, but had resources to buy a nicer car than a Dodge Dart. Of course, classic Mercedes-Benz, the grille right here. The three-pointed star has been deleted. We can see somebody snapped it off of there, probably become a chain or a pendant, who knows. But the faux radiator cap screw on, it's kind of a weird thing. Why did they have that? Paul Brack probably resisted that, but was overruled because that's a Mercedes-Benz trademark. So Shane, what we'll do is we'll trade spots. If you want, take a peek at the dashboard and I'll come around from the other side. And this being a diesel has some unusual traits that we'll examine that aren't found in the 230 gas job. And of course, this little thing right here, engine, pull, start, push, stop. This little knob right here would have been specific to the diesel. 100-mile-an-hour speedometer. Good luck. You cannot go 100 in this thing with the diesel. And that thing right there, that is a buzzer that has to do with the cold start warm-up procedure. When that buzzer is going, you can't turn the key and light the car off. Again, diesel specific. Here is the 3-speed automatic transmission. Oh, check it out. LSD. That's nice. Limited slip differential, Lucy in the sky and a dime, and you decide. But anyway, 3-speed automatic here. A 4 or a 5-speed manual is possible. The radio in this, very much original. The Becker Classic. Yeah, Curane, or I can't, Europe. Becker Europe, of course. Becker was like the AC Delco of Germany. AM/FM equipment right here. Original factory radio. Air conditioning right here. We saw the compressor in the trunk. And at this point in time, it kind of looks a little afterthought, aftermarket. It's possible these things were supplied by American manufacturers. Not sure. It looks a little bit tier 2 add-on. But with that said, you know, the interior of this very safety oriented. This is not an airbag. Looks like one, but that's a pad. Theoretically, to, you know, protect your face in the event you had a crash. Something's better than nothing, clearly. But yeah, as we make our way around to the back of this, we'll see, again, the crash bumpers in full effect. American cars or imports, they all had to abide by the 5-mile-per-hour crash mandate. We can see on this one here, On this side, the remains are actually the little piston, this shock absorber device right here. This flap deforms, and these rubber bumpers right here help to absorb impact, but theoretically it would bounce back. Well, not so much. We can see on this side it stands proud, but over here it's compressed and hasn't come back out. So, you know, with time, almost any system can begin to degrade and fail. And speaking of resale value, you know, Mercedes claims something like 90%. I don't know this thing has any resale value at all, other than maybe 300 bucks in scrap. With that said, it's a heck of a car with a heck of a story. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Mag's YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. Share this video with your friends, and by all means, ring the bell so you're aware when the next video hits, which is tomorrow morning. Smell you then.